Ever since the first Conjuring film hit cinemas, fans have wondered how much of the Warrens' tale is based on truth. Was there a real Annabelle doll? If so, is it as evil as the movie version? Let's find out. The answer to the first question is yes, there is a real doll. Though whether or not you believe the terrifying tales that surround it, that's up to you. The second question is a little bit more complicated. The only thing that's certain is Annabelle's real life tale is proof that sometimes reality is worse than fiction. The doll caused much mayhem and it is now locked up in Ed and Lorraine Warren's occult museum in Monroe, Connecticut. While the real doll is as far from the porcelain version in the movie, many of its details are scarily similar. Looks are deceiving, Lorraine Warren once said. It is not what the doll looks like that makes it scary. It is what has been infused within the doll. Evil. The Warrens may be the famous part of the tale, thanks to the Conjuring movies, but they aren't where it all began. Far from it. Annabelle's reign of terror began in 1970 when her mum bought the doll from a hobby shop for her daughter, a student nurse called Donna, as a birthday gift. Donna was living with her friend Angie at the time and was over the moon at her mother's gift. At least she was to start off with. The doll swiftly made its true nature known and became a real-life nightmare for the girls. Annabelle started small, a hand movement here and there, things that could easily be explained. Donna and Angie didn't really question why Annabelle moved from the chair to the floor. Perhaps she fell. But the movements increased and soon their explanations for them, they all dried up. They'd moved the doll to Donna's room and it would appear immediately outside Angie's room. Before long, things got out of hand. The pair claim Annabelle levitated and began attacking them, even attempted to strangle a friend. The girl's close friend Lou became very nervous around the doll, believing it to be possessed. But they shrugged it off and it was just a doll. But the story took a more sinister turn, spurring them into action. Notes started to appear around the apartment, which on the face of it didn't seem that strange, except the weird thing was that they were written in parchment paper and the girls had no idea where that had come from. Each note had a different message. Help Lou and Help us were just two of the terrifying scrawls seemingly in the child's handwriting. Things came to a head when Donna came home from work only to find the doll had blood on her hands. Annabelle was on her usual spot on the bed, but the red marks on her hands caught the nurse's eye. It seemed to be blood. The red liquid appeared to be coming from the doll itself. The first medium came up with the theory fairly quickly during a seance, telling the girls a story about a 7-year-old girl who had died years before. According to the medium, the apartment complex was built on a field where the girl was found. When the doll was brought to the apartment, Annabelle's spirit was apparently in the area and she became fond of the doll, opted to possessing it. The real girl, Annabelle Higgins, became Annabelle the Doll. In a surprising act of compassion, the girls decided to keep the doll, saying they felt sorry for the spirit, but their empathy wasn't to last. A series of bad dreams and visions of the young girl weren't enough to make them change their mind, but when the girl's friend Lou was attacked, they begged for help. It appeared as if the doll particularly disliked Lou. One night he woke from a deep sleep and instantly felt panicked. He'd had this reoccurring bad dream, but this time it felt different. It was as if Lou was awake, but he said he was unable to move. He looked around the room, but saw nothing. Then it started. He glanced down and saw Annabelle at his feet. The doll's hands were around his neck in seconds. Lou says he blacked out and awoke the next morning, unsure whether it was a dream or reality. The next day, he got his answers. Lou was hanging out in Angie's room looking over maps and preparing for a road trip when they heard a noise from Donna's room, but Donna wasn't actually home. Thinking it was an intruder, they were frozen in fear and their mood didn't improve when they realised it was Annabelle. Lou peeked into Donna's room, but he saw no one outside. Annabelle sat on the chair instead of the bed where she was normally placed, but nothing else was amiss. He moved towards the doll, but soon felt a terrible, crippling feeling wash over him. He felt as if someone was behind him. The crippling feeling surged through his chest. Looking down, he saw claw marks appear, as if someone had leapt up and roughly scratched him. There were 7 marks in total, 3 vertical, 4 horizontal, all searing hot. In a panic, Lou looked around the room. There was still no one in there with him. There was no other explanation in his mind. It had to be Annabelle. The scratches were visible to other people, but they mysteriously disappeared or healed within 2 days. There was no trace of them at all. Donna called a priest named Father Heggin. He argued that it was a spiritual matter and he needed a higher power. And that's when Ed and Lorraine Warren were contacted. The pair, like the Ghostbusters for the occult matters, Ed and Lorraine soon diagnosed the doll as having an inhuman demonic spirit. The Warrens said the doll wasn't possessed, but it was being manipulated by a spirit. Inanimate objects aren't possessed. The pair said, but spirits can come attached. The Warrens had been called in just in time as they felt occurrences would have escalated and ended with a death in the house. The apartment was cleansed. Donna wanted the doll gone. The Warrens agreed to take it away, and Ed drove Annabelle to their museum for safekeeping. He claimed the doll willed the car's brakes and steering to fail, repeatedly. He threw holy water on Annabelle as she sat there on the back seat in a bid to stop the attack. It seemed to pause the weird behaviour. Arriving home, Ed sat the doll in a chair near his desk. He claims it began to levitate, but swiftly fell. Over the next few weeks, it would move, cropping up around the house. One day a priest came to visit, seeing the doll in the chair. He picked it up and addressed it, saying, "You're just a raggedy Annabelle. You cannot hurt anyone," tossing her aside. Ed was appalled, shouting, "That's the one thing you better not say." An hour later, the couple saw the priest off, asking him to call them when he got home. A few hours later, he rang. His brakes had cut as he turned into a busy intersection. He'd been in an accident. His car was destroyed and he had barely survived. The Warrens decided there was only one thing for it. Annabelle was moved to a glass box at their museum, secured with a special set of prayers, and it's where she resides today.